bonjour, and welcome to the Amateur Detective Club. This club is exactly how it sounds. A bunch of amateurs talking about their favorite mysteries. So if you encounter a real mystery or a murder, contact the proper authorities. Do not come to us. We do not know what we are doing. But enjoy the program. Allons-y. Let us begin.
Don't say anything racist now. I now call this meeting of the Amateur Detective Club to begin. I'm Tristan Miller, the saucy sleuth.
I'm Melissa Meli, the spy.
I'm Tyler Riley, I am cop and a half.
Well, in some ways, today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners, nobody else. This is not ad copy for anyone else. Our listeners, a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/adcpod and browse the unmatched selection of audio programs. Download a title free and start listening. It's that easy. Just go to audibletrial.com/adcpod. My favorite thing is now that we're all recording in the same room, you two stare at me because I'm not reading it. I'm like Tom Hanks at the end of Castaway, just like looking to the horizon.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry to everyone who hasn't seen the classic Castaway.
Okay, now we're calling it a classic.
Yeah, I know.
It's a very well-known film. It's a very well-known film. You know this.
Yeah, I mean, it starred the beach ball and the other person.
Mm-hmm.
A stick, if you can believe it.
Yep, that's right. That's absolutely what happened.
There's that smash cut in it where he's like normal Tom Hanks, and then it's smash.
Tom Hanks is in it?
I'm gonna kick you.
I knew Wilson, but I don't know about this Tom Hanks fella. Hope things work out for his career.
Not great. His sons are nuts. Oh boy.
White boy summer.
Yeah, Dios mío. But there's a smash cut of him like looking at the water, then it cuts to him like spearing a fish, and he's like dropped 50 pounds or whatever, and it is shocking. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
He's not well in the movie, which reminds me of something I've said to both of you before. When Joker came out, I had longer hair, and everyone was like, "Do you know who you look like? Do you know who you look like?" I'm like, "Yeah," and it's Joaquin Phoenix. Oh. And everyone, I was like, I don't know how to take that because that movie, he's at his worst.
He looks ill in that movie.
He does not look well. That is the point of the film. And I'm like, why be mean? Why be mean?
Because people.
Yeah, never tell someone they look like a celebrity unless that celebrity is famous for being beautiful, at least partially.
It's like, you know who you look like?
And with black people, just don't even.
Yeah.
Just don't.
No, don't try.
Just.
Don't try. You're going to get yourself in trouble.
Oh.
Yeah, people like to tell me that I look like other actresses with noses that are not tiny. And I'm like, cool, great, thank you. I know I don't have a small nose. Yeah, that's great.
Didn't you get Barbara Streisand one time? And you could not look less like her.
I mean, look, I appreciate Barbara Streisand's unique beauty, and I also simultaneously don't really like being said that I look like her. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She's a singer, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Like, I know that she did some acting and directed as well, and has an Oscar for directing it. No, she was nominated, but she didn't win.
Oh, was she nominated? Oh, okay.
I'm
didn't
pretty
know that.
sure. For something called something with a Y. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not really familiar with her work.
Yeah.
It's just a name that I know.
Okay.
If you're going to watch a Streisand film, What's Up, Doc? Great movie. Slapstick comedy. Very fun.
It was better than her performance in Meet the Fockers?
This is a movie I've not seen.
Okay.
Pretty much anything. All the classic ones. I think I haven't seen any of them, but from what I hear, there's of course Yentl. There is, what's the one with The Way We Were? That's what I'm thinking of. People love that movie. I haven't seen it.
With Robert Redford?
Yep.
That's her?
That is
her.
her.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
but
right.
but also don't just tell a person that they look like another person because they both have noses. Prominent nose.
In drama school, someone was like, "You know who you remind me of?" I'm like, "Oh, here we go. It's
Yeah.
Steve Buscemi." And I was like, someone who is famous for not being the most attractive man. He just looks like a normal human being. That's the mean thing. He said something that was like heartbreaking. He was like, "I didn't know I was ugly until I started acting." Because he's just like a normal looking guy. He's not bad to look at.
Yeah.
He's just like not unreasonably hot as most actors are.
But like that's like the weird thing about looks in the industry.
Yeah.
Because like, oh god, this is gonna sound awful.
Ooh.
Great.
But like
Hit me with it.
Susan Sarandon, for example, is not a woman that I would think of as like sexy.
Yeah.
But I think she's beautiful. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
like
yeah.
these just
Right.
very different ways in which we talk about like Steve Buscemi. Like not exactly someone I would be saying like sexy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, he's an alright looking man. Like I
Yeah.
don't.
He's good to look. He's compelling
If he
to look
approached me
like.
in a bar, like I wouldn't be like, oh.
No,
you know?
yeah.
Like, I'd be
I would
like,
vomit on the floor.
yeah, I'd be like, all right, let's see what this is about.
Yeah, it's wild how we've like standardized, you can look like this subset of 10 people and be considered attractive.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's wild.
Yeah.
And that I think actually has confused people about me for a while in regards to casting, because it's like, you just don't look like anybody.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, okay,
I get
cool.
what you mean.
Great. I'm not I don't have like a porcelain doll feature and, and I am not a skinny person either. And that has often been the standard that, women have to live up to in the industry. And I'm like, okay, well, here's hoping someone finds me interesting enough to cast at some point. That's the thing. Once someone's like, okay,
Yeah.
I see what you're doing here.
With your body and your face and your mind.
Yes, and actually your talent. So, I mean, here's hoping. And as I get older, the world opens up in a weird way
Yeah.
that it might not necessarily, because it's like, aha, I can be quirky if I'm older, right?
Ooh.
I
Yeah.
don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
Two things. One, someone who I think is absolutely gorgeous that like no one agrees with me on is Willem Dafoe. Specifically as a young man, he should have been in like model magazines. He was like a beautiful man. And now he's aged into a very interesting looking person. Does that make sense? Which I think is almost better than being hot, is if you just like if you're compelling to watch on screen. Does that make sense?
I
I
mean,
see that logic for you.
Because
Like-
as a young person, I was model hot, and now I'm slowly aging into
No,
an
no, no.
ugly person.
I mean, I hear your perception of Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
oh.
And I
Did
can
you Google
understand that trajectory for... I see how you have arrived at that conclusion. I just don't
You don't agree.
agree.
That's fine. A lot of people don't agree with me on that one.
But I also, like, much like Steve Buscemi, like, I do know people that, like, kind of talk about Willem Dafoe as, like, if he's, like, disgusting. And I'm like, no, like, he's a
Robin-
normal-looking man in the world.
Robin Williams was voted the most unattractive actor like 3 years ago, and he's like built. And he,
Who is... Why
Doing-
is that a poll, first of all?
number
And
one,
then
yes.
second, who is putting it together?
I don't know, but it was like one of those things like, what the hell? Because, like, he was just like a normal looking Midwestern person. And what it comes down to a lot of the time is like these people are like, well, I mean, Robin wasn't working class. He was very well off to begin with. But like, Steve Buscemi was like a firefighter.
Yeah.
Willem Dafoe's from Wisconsin. Like, it's just like they're not coastal looking people. Ugh, don't get me started about the overrepresentation of coastal people in media.
I mean, beauty standards are silly and, kind of arbitrary, honestly.
They fluctuate.
It has evolved throughout years.
Yeah, like thick women are in.
Is that
To be fair, though, in non-white communities, thick has been
Always.
in
Yes.
for many a year.
Yes. Yes.
And I mean, then the standard of casting is, I mean, I'm like, okay, maybe thick women are in, but are we casting them and stuff? Maybe a little bit more, hopefully.
I'd like to.
A little bit more here and there. It's slowly shifting, and yeah, I don't know, and it's just so strange. What I've learned over the years is that the thing that makes someone attractive when they're on like screen, or like famous in some way, is the fact that they are on screen and they are famous in some way. You can put pretty much anybody up there and they're like, oh, a celebrity, and that like raises your attractiveness by like 120%. Like,
It's the, idolization. Maybe. Is that what I'm looking for? Possibly. But, there's the glitter. You get the glitter on you.
yeah, Jim Carrey calls it
Good glitter.
Elvis dust.
There it is.
you
Yeah,
know,
that makes sense.
Where you want to be a part of it somehow. You want to get even a little bit of that Elvis dust on you.
Yeah, sure. No,
You
I
know.
can see that.
Which also sounds like a street drug.
Yeah, it
And,
does.
Yeah.
It
Knowing
might be.
knowing what we know about Elvis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's
I
maybe
like
what he
two
called
thing-
it.
I like two things. I like methamphetamines and young women.
And the third thing, stealing from black people.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, sure.
That was so interesting when I heard there was an interview with some music producer that like, oh, we heard this great sound from black people, and they're like, no one's gonna buy it, so we need to find a white person, like any white person in America. And it was just so conscious. It wasn't like, oops, all stealing from black people. It was
Yeah, it was a concerted effort, and it's been criticized certainly in black media for years. I think now we're media at large is starting to catch up, or at least let us in on what they did know when they were doing these things. You saw it in things like Memphis, which won a Tony a few years ago. Dreamgirls as well heavily criticizes
Yeah.
the
Walk
steal-
Hard, the Dewey Cox story.
Yeah, semi-pro.
Speaking of racism and people I didn't realize were attractive.
You were talking about Dame Maggie Smith?
No.
What?
Oh my
Oh,
God.
Did
she
you
is-
not know that she was attractive?
No, I knew, but like I didn't
Okay.
know the extent.
Have you seen her as Dowager Countess on Downton Abbey?
I'm gonna just scream into a pillow.
Boy.
No.
She's still got it going
Yeah,
on.
she-
I
yeah,
do
she
not
does.
care.
She looks
Miss
great.
Jean Brodie is always in her prime, is all I'm saying.
But she does look great in this movie we are about to review. Oh, hold on to your hats. Murder by Death.
Okay.
Neil Simon's Murder.
Now here's my thing. I didn't realize Clue was a remake until we saw this film. It's just
Don't
it's-
do that to Clue.
it's the exact same
I see what you're saying. Like the premise,
almost exactly the same.
almost, yeah.
And it's like a stereotypical premise. It's like
Right,
it's
they're
not
both
like
spoofs.
Yeah, exactly.
They're both spoofs off of, I'm assuming, and then there were none
Exactly.
by,
yeah.
which we need to read or watch.
Because
etc.
we've reviewed. Let me take that again. We've reviewed Clue. We've reviewed this. We've reviewed, and then there were fewer. We have not got to the actual
And
thing.
then there were none. Yeah, exactly.
Because that should be the final episode of the podcast.
No, and then there were none. There were
then
none.
we're done.
No,
And we're done.
And we're done. You heard it here, folks. So when you see that title, you know something has
That's
happened.
There won't be trumpets. Just silence.
The review is just 20 minutes of nothing.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. I actually took notes, if you can believe it.
Ooh.
Yeah, because
Wow.
it's when it not on the plot. Only on
don't
jokes
need to.
that I liked.
Yeah, that's
the
fine.
thing. I was like, whenever we review a comedy, I'm like, I, as a semi-professional comedian, I want to let people know that I have a sense of humor.
Well, as someone who has played a comedian, I can also.
If you can believe it, Tyler Riley was the Joker in the movie The Joker.
Actually, I played Joaquin Phoenix in the documentary about the making of.
I'm still here, but not really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, the plot of this movie is five of the world's greatest detectives all get an invitation
Yes.
to dinner to solve an invitation to dinner and a murder, is what the invitation says, and we're introduced to them slowly over the course of the first 20 minutes, but we see a shadowy figure sending out the invitations at the beginning with and he sends it to his butler, played by Sir Alec Guinness. May he rest in peace. Do you want a sad and weird fact about Sir Alec Guinness?
Why not?
Sure.
He was arrested for having gay sex in a public lavatory during the 1940s.
Oh.
And he advised Ian McKellen, never come out because it will ruin your career.
Oh.
And Ian McKellen was like, I'm not doing that. But he's there and he plays a blind butler. So I want to talk about this right away. There's a lot of jokes about him being blind. It's the 70s. It's not particularly sensitive to people who have that disability.
Yeah,
But
this movie is very ableist, and we'll get into more characters.
Ooh,
Yeah.
is it ever?
yeah, however, some of the jokes are still, they did make me laugh. Because it's like, even if in my mind, it's also like there's simple like social misunderstandings. Even
Yeah.
if like someone who
Sure.
just didn't know any better made them, they would still be funny. Like at one point, he shuts the door the wrong way, and I'm like, that's silly.
Yeah.
But it is like playing on the fact that he's blind.
I was so what I found myself wondering through this, because I mean, my goodness, just every type of ableism, racism, misogyny. What am I missing? What else?
Tomfoolery.
Homophobia.
Homophobia. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yes, of course. Yeah, it's all here. It's all right at the forefront, and I found myself dreaming about how to do this without any of that crap. You know, like how can we take this plot and make it not extremely offensive to anyone
Yeah.
who's not a white man, a white cis straight man.
I think it could be done quite simply.
Yeah.
Actually. Like there's so many things.
Yeah, exactly.
That still make this movie still an interesting and fun watch in spite of,
Oh yeah, I laughed a fair amount because there's a lot of like goofy lines as well and like
Yeah.
gags. It felt almost like a Mel Brooks film.
Yeah.
It's like that level of like it could have been a commedia
if-
dell'arte.
Only he had done that.
I don't know if he directed, but I know Gene Wilder wrote Sherlock Holmes' Smarter Brother, which is like a mystery
Yeah.
parody. But I don't know if Mel was involved.
Oh, we
Yeah,
can.
I'm not sure.
We can look at that one because it's not an actual Sherlock Holmes
Exactly.
property.
So this movie is racist in a very specific way, and I like Peter Sellers as a performer. I think him in what is it?
The Pink Panther?
Number 1. Number 2, How to Deal with the Bomb. What's the full title?
Oh,
Doctor Strangelove.
Doctor Strangelove. Yeah.
He's phenomenal in that, and also that's James Earl Jones' first movie. He's very fun.
Oh.
Yeah, first movie he ever did. What you did to work with those people on your first film? What a blessing. But he plays an Asian person, and I knew this going in, but what's messed up is they also have an Asian actor. And it's like, so you can't do the, well, we didn't know that Asian people existed malarkey that sometimes gets pulled. It's like you're so close. But what might have been the case is this character is so stereotypical and offensive that like perhaps no Asian actor would do it.
No, it'll be really funny, right? If we had
Yeah. It's bad. And okay, every once in a while in this movie, there is a person who's like, hey, come on now with the racism.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's not enough.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it doesn't
Not nearly
excuse
enough.
it doesn't excuse the things that have happened in this movie.
yeah.
God bless Richard Harita.
Richard Narita.
Narita, sorry.
Yeah, who plays
Willie Yang?
Willie
Willie Wang.
Willie Wang.
Willie
yeah.
Wang, yes. So okay.
Oh, God.
Okay. So what we have is a cast of characters. We get introduced to all the characters in succession with their as they drive up to this manor. Much like we do in And Then There Were Fewer,
Yes.
the Family Guy episode. There's also notes of cards on the table
Yes, I was also thinking
in
that.
this one. Anyway, reminiscent of. So yes, we have Lionel Twain, his blind butler, James Sir Benson Mum, which is they have
Very,
fun
very,
with the name.
very fun bit.
Yeah.
Like again, those are the bits that you should keep.
No, yeah, I hear that.
Brian had me purposely wake him up for the Benson Mom moment.
That's
Oh,
very
okay.
good.
yeah. It's good. So Peter Sellers, as we were just talking about, plays Inspector Sidney Wang, who is based on Earl Biggers' Chinese police detective Charlie Chan, and is accompanied by his adopted Japanese son Willie Wang, played by Richard Narita.
Which, sorry, because I know you want to get through the list.
That's okay.
Um,
No, let's talk about it.
Because I remember trying to look up Asian American detective novels and things like when I first joined the podcast, and like that was among them. But like, I remember thinking like, because of this movie, that like I didn't want to like even go down that rabbit hole. I don't know if the books are as egregious. I have a
Hunch.
big feeling that there probably are quite terrible.
What I would love is have stories written by an Asian, like a detective story is written by a person from the
Absolutely.
AAPI community. I would love that. If you listeners, if you have recommendations, please let us know. We would love to watch. But this, I am making an assumption based on this man's name that he is not a Chinese person who wrote the detective Charlie Chan. And so very concerned about, not just the caricature that we got in this, but the original
Caricature
detective.
is being very generous, Melissa.
Oh, I know.
It is a walking singular joke,
It's like,
in quotation marks, joke.
yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about Charlie Chan.
From what I hear, from what I've heard from Asian friends, is they're not the biggest fan, is the way I'll put it.
Sure, okay.
They're not, because it's one of those things of similar to the whole problem with the poo thing of like for a while that was people's touchstone for what an Asian American would be like,
Yeah.
and that's not helpful
Right.
necessarily.
Yeah, exactly. So in that case, and then in this movie that is certainly trying to do a spoof and a satire, and also does it in the most racist possible way. It's absolutely terrible. So,
But he's like the second character like of the detectives to be introduced, and I was like, we get into it like right away, and I literally said out loud, "Oh my god!" Like it is whatever. If you've not seen this movie, whatever you are picturing in your mind right now of how racist it is, double or triple that.
Yeah.
Because he's doing yellow face. Like he's in full get up. He might as well have like done prosthetics around his eyes. It's awful.
And what I did appreciate about Amazon Prime is that they did let me know exactly what I was getting into with, when you first click on the video and it starts like in the corner with the rating.
Oh, I see.
Yellowface is in
Oh.
what they warn you.
didn't notice
about.
that. That's good. I mean, that's good that they warn you about that because it's a problem. Goodness. Yeah. Okay.
Let's move on.
So much more racism to come. But then we also get introduced.
But what about in the movie?
We get introduced to Maggie Smith and Maggie Smith's husband, as I will heretofore refer to them.
Dora and
Dick.
Dickie, yeah.
Dora and Dick Charleston.
Ugh.
They're modeled on Dashiell Hammett characters Nick and Nora Charles from the Thin Man film series.
Okay. I want to go back to Peter Sellers for one frickin' minute. He is famous for playing a detective, is the thing. He was in the Pink... You couldn't have just done that. You couldn't have just done that. Sorry.
But you know what would be funny?
Oh. This is Neil Simon pitching it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what would be funny? Hate those people, right?
Goodness.
Oh my god.
I wrote this down in my Brighton Beach memoirs. That's how you know it's my Neil Simon impression.
Oh my god.
As long as you talk about Brighton Beach memoirs, you got it.
Oh my goodness.
I got those Broadway blues. But you know what would be really funny?
You know, didn't he do Barefoot in the Park as well?
Yeah.
And Goodbye Girl.
Yeah.
Those two are really good. Those are the only
There, yeah.
touchstones I have.
Yeah.
I guess we did Brighton Beach memoirs in drama school
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
briefly.
Um,
Anyway,
yeah.
so we get these two people who are
They're like society types.
Yeah.
And then they have a dog, as the couple does in the Thin Man. I don't know that one
An
well. either.
adorable dog.
He's a very cute
Yeah.
little dog.
Some kind of terrier.
Wire-haired terrier. So then, and we also get Milo Perrier, played by James Coco.
Who? Wonder who.
Hard to figure out who he's modeled after. Yeah.
now. This man looks so familiar to me. The actor, not the character. the actor looks. But I looked at his IMDb and I'm like, I haven't seen anything he's been in. So I think he was probably just ubiquitous of a certain era, of like just being around. I know he's like in Murder, She Wrote and a few other things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I
he's-
just seen him around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this, he is with a chauffeur named Marcel.
Of course.
Who is fine.
Okay, and that was the thing I was talking about with people I didn't realize I would find attractive.
Right?
Yes.
Oh.
And he is James Cromwell.
Yeah.
It's James Cromwell's first movie role. James Cromwell.
From Babe.
Yes,
In
from
the
Babe.
Big City? Pig in
Yeah,
the Big
the
City?
farmer. That's
Oh.
James Cromwell.
I remember that man being like 83 in that movie. I'm
Yeah.
sure he's like,
36 in this movie.
oh, okay.
He's 36 in this movie that we were talking
Not
about,
Babe.
Murder by Death. Not
no,
Babe.
The
Yeah.
pink.
In Babe, he is, yeah.
But
he,
still a babe.
Old as the hills and twice as dusty, as my folks would say.
No, sure. But yeah,
Got
this
that
was
Elvis dust.
this was his
Gotta blow it
first this was his first movie at age 36. And I was like, "Oh, all right, James Cromwell."
He's very tall. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
He is very tall. But yeah, like didn't realize that was going to do it for me, 36-year-old James Cromwell, but yeah, absolutely. And he has also been in the wonderful 6 Feet Under. And of course, has played multiple characters in the Star Treks, including in First Contact.
Okay, that is one I have not seen.
Yeah, you need to see First Contact. He's also in Alien Loaf and various different series. Like he's in Deep Space Nine as an person from another planet.
As a not human. So, for those of you who didn't understand the, I wonder who he's based off of. He's based off of Poirot, this character.
Oh yeah,
Perrier is based off of
Perrier
Poirot.
is based off of Poirot. I'm actually not sure why with the chauffeur, because he doesn't seem like a familiar character from Poirot.
Yeah, he's not like
Yeah.
Hastings or anything.
No.
I think they just wanted a French person. I think they wanted two sissy French people. Again, what would be funny?
Right.
Yeah.
And can I tell you, it is. Their accents, incredibly funny. It's genius performances on both of their parts.
Yeah, and not James Cromwell. Gives a really fun performance, I thought.
I think he's...
Coco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
as,
my goodness.
As Perrier. Yeah.
When we
yeah.
get introduced to these two, they're in a car. Perrier is just like voraciously like eating like this chocolate bar and like barking instructions at this poor chauffeur. How do we get to the Nespa part?
Okay. It goes, I wanted nuts, but this has raisins. They didn't have nuts, no nuts, and then that sort of thing. But the Nespa thing comes with the hot chocolate later, which is a genius line.
Oh, right.
Because
That's when we, when
later
we're in
on,
the house. My bad.
it's fine. The butler, he goes, I would like some hot cocoa, Nespa, and he goes, no, I only think we have Hershey's. And I was like, genius
Very, very
line.
funny.
But I didn't necessarily like this parody of Poirot because he's so cruel to his chauffeur. And I'm like, Poirot would never. He would never be this mean to anybody that is employed by him. But it's a very funny dynamic. It's like very like, again, commedia dell'arte of like a servant and a master situation.
And, like, they just heighten like all of like the worst qualities of each of the detectives they're parodying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Boy,
Except for
do
Maggie
they.
Smith because she's the greatest ever.
Yeah.
I'll say this as well. In the car scene, they're like arguing, and he's like, they do some like wordplay of like, I feel it in my buns. Your buns? You had buns this whole time? I am hungry. It's like, no, my buns in my body. You have buns in your body? And he's like, there's a moment of like, don't speak. You know better to speak in an accent when I am hungry.
Yeah.
And that, very funny, because that implies that the chauffeur doesn't normally have a French accent. There's a lot of like
yes,
meta
that's
humor,
funny.
Yeah.
which also reminded me of Mel Brooks, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
of like that kind of thing.
So we get also Sam Diamond,
My boy, Peter
Yes.
Falk.
Peter Falk, who, when does Columbo start? I was trying to figure out if he had already
19
started playing Columbo at this point.
19, I think 70 something. This was in 77, this movie.
76.
76?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Let me look at Columbo real quick. I know it was popped off in the 1971. So yeah, he's playing,
Okay.
he's doing a Columbo bit.
Oh, he's okay. But
And he's doing a
is-
bunch of noir characters as well.
He's doing characters played by Humphrey Bogart.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Specifically parodying Sam Spade of The Maltese Falcon, also written by Dashiell Hammett. And he's also a character of Humphrey Bogart in Casablanca.
Yes.
He does, like, there are specific references to Casablanca lines.
A movie I have not seen, so went over my head.
The whistle one, even? You know how to whistle, don't you?
No idea.
Wow.
No idea. I know maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow,
Okay.
but someday soon.
Here's looking at you, kid.
That I do know. Yeah.
Okay,
and I
great,
know Play It
because-
Again, Sam.
Yeah, all right.
I know Rick, you have to get me out of your Rick.
All right. As long as you know all the other famous lines from Casablanca.
Yeah, but I don't know the
Also,
whistle.
for the record, you shouldn't be looking at kids. Here's looking at you, kid.
No, I got it. I got it.
All right. But yeah, they do at the end a bit of, you know how to whistle, don't you?
She's like, I don't know.
And
what
she's
you
like,
mean.
what are he's like, never mind, you ruined the bit.
So she
Okay.
is his secretary.
Right, the she we are referring to, who is Tess Skeffington, is the character name, played by Eileen Brennan.
Oh,
I'm
I love
happy
her
for the both of you.
so much.
She's Mrs. Peacock in Clue.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
And in Private Benjamin, she's the drill sergeant.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Eileen Brennan is. The women in this movie do a great job.
Yes.
May I say this about the scene in which we were introduced to Sam and what is the character's name?
Tess.
Tess. She's giving him the lowdown on Truman Capote, who I will just call Truman Capote because he's Truman Capote.
Twain. Yeah.
And he's like, you really did your homework. And she's like, and he goes, how did you know all this information? He goes, well, I called and I asked him. And he goes, good thinking. He was so good. So good. Ugh. That's like the second joke that I have written down.
In the remake, I want Tess to be played by Kathy Moriarty.
Who is that?
Did you ever see the movie Casper the Friendly Ghost?
Once as a child, but never again.
Okay.
Not for.
She was also in Goodfellas.
Okay, who is she in Goodfellas?
Oh, whose wife was she?
Either way, a
Shoot.
wife in Goodfellas. Okay,
Yeah.
capable hands is what.
But like the real raspy cigarette voice
oh
one. The blonde.
yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Who would I want to play Peter Falk's character? Who is an equivalent?
Just kidding.
I'm almost like Scott Bakula because I'm like, who's modern Columbo? You know what I'm saying? Like, obviously, you get Benedict Cumberbatch for the guy that's playing opposite.
Dickie.
Yeah, for Dickie, because he played Sherlock and whatnot. But like, I'm trying to think.
I mean, I would play the Maggie Smith part.
I think.
You know who go for it.
No, go ahead. Well, if we're casting ourselves, I would want to be the Peter Falk.
Yeah,
character,
of course.
You know, are you kidding me? No. I too am a short king. Thank you. He's a little man. He was a little man.
Yeah, I'm not disputing that.
He's so little.
I was just trying to say something.
yeah.
Wild card, but Don Cheadle.
Oh, that would
Yeah.
be fun. That would be fun. Don Cheadle is very good. He's also very funny.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's
Fantastic.
underrated as a comedic actor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true.
Right. I wanted John Hodgman for the Truman Capote role. I think he'd be perfect for
Yeah,
that.
he would. Great.
Because we're on to the final pairing, yeah?
Yeah. Jessica Marbles
Oh, yes.
with her nurse.
Dame
Miss-
Maggie Smith.
No,
Stop.
no.
No, you should be playing in the remake by Dame Maggie Smith.
Oh, okay. I
Not
missed the
now.
disconnect.
Yeah, no, I'm just.
I thought
no.
I thought you were being mean to Maggie Smith.
No, I
and
would
was
never
like, I will
be
not
mean
stand for
to
that.
Maggie Smith because I've seen how vicious she is in interviews.
Love it.
She is. Whew, whew, firebrand, that woman.
I love her. Yes, her nurse, Miss Withers. So the bit is they come in and everyone's like, "Oh, Mrs. Marbles, we love you so much." And they're talking to, because, you know, they know that Mrs. Marbles and her nurse are coming.
And
The
the.
broad wheeled. Someone is wheeled in.
Yes.
So. And is an elderly woman.
Yeah.
Right. So they assume that the nurse is the one taking care of the woman in the wheelchair. And it has become the other way around.
Very cute, man.
Yeah.
Very cute. Because I guess she's been her nurse for 52 years.
Mm-hmm.
I assume since she was a child at this
Yeah.
point. And now she needs taken care of, and which is very sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I liked this very much, their dynamic.
I love also that Sam knows Jess and is very friendly with her. I thought
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
very cute
Yes.
as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Goes, Jessie, baby. Very fun.
Yeah.
And the Wangs are familiar with the Charlestons as
Right.
well.
Yes. I want a Charleston chew so bad.
I have never had.
Oh,
one.
they are
Oh.
the best candy.
Do you
Okay.
like a nougat? Like a stretchy, like...
I don't mind. And nougat is also what's found in a Milky Way. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I'm not saying the right thing.
No, it's nougat in a Charleston chew.
And, yeah, is it?
Yep, it's a chocolate-covered nougat, sometimes strawberry-covered nougat.
Yeah, it's real good.
Great frozen. You stick that in a freezer for a day. It becomes crunchy, melts in your mouth, gets gooey there. The gooiness in your mouth, folks. The gooiness.
So Milky Ways...
Milky Ways I can't stand, though, which is interesting.
Yeah, because
too fluffy.
if it might be, so it's a fluffy nougat,
It's
I
whipped.
guess, in a Milky Way, whereas in a
Okay.
Charleston chew, it's very like
Almost taffy.
taffy-like.
Okay.
So that's the thing. That's the buy-in.
Charleston-
You got to be okay with the taffy texture.
Eating a Charleston chew is like a 3-hour endeavor.
Yeah, I don't have time for that kind of snack.
We'll get the mini ones.
There's also itty bitty
Is that
little
an hour
ones.
and a half?
Yeah.
No, that's a oops, I ate the whole box and now I feel bad about myself endeavor.
They're real good though. They're quite tasty. But Jessica Marbles is a parody of Miss Marple.
Oh, okay.
Wow, you're dumb.
Great. There we
I'm gonna
go.
cry about that later, but it's fine.
But I want Miss Withers to be played by, I know she's too young for it, so they would have to do a whole bunch of makeup. Amber Ruffin, because she's adorable.
Oh, yeah.
As is Miss Winters.
Who is that?
Oh, Amber Ruffin is a contributor to The Late Show with Seth Meyers. But she also has her own show called The Amber Ruffin Show on Peacock.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Miss
And
Withers.
for the record, she is your type.
Okay. I'll have to look into this person then. I'll say this. I think Dawn French would be really good Miss Marbles.
I don't
Name sounds familiar, but I'm having a hard
She's
time
a
picturing.
British comedian. She's actually in Death on the Nile coming out.
Okay.
But she's Vicar of Dibley, if you've ever seen that.
Yes, because she's married to was married to Lenny Henry.
And then she's also in Harry Potter as the woman in the painting.
Yes.
Oh,
The one
she's,
who sings and breaks the glass.
Yeah, that's Dawn French. She's very funny, and she'd be perfect for
Okay.
that.
Yes.
Yeah.
The unfortunately named fat lady, which is
Yeah.
what is
Nothing
she?
wrong with being fat.
Well, nothing wrong being fat, but
No,
like, she
but-
could have just been the lady in the painting.
She could have been the lady in the
Yeah,
painting.
exactly. Right. But that is what the character's name is for those.
Well, you're
folks who are
saying
listening.
J.K. Rowling named a character in a way that was insensitive to that group of people?
I know, right?
What?
Quiet before you upset the Dumbledores.
They can come at me. My Twitter is at Tristan J. Miller 1. Fight me. I will read another book.
Just don't give that lady money.
No, go to your local library if you're gonna read Harry Potter. Go to your local library, get it for free.
Yeah, you can enjoy
Or
the
just
story
find a
without.
PDF online.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can steal from J.K.
Steal from
Rowling.
J.K.
Go to her
Rowling.
Yes.
house, steal her diamonds, and her dog. Her dog doesn't deserve to be with a terrible woman.
Fair.
Does she have a dog?
I don't know.
know.
I don't know. I assume she's
seems
a
like
white woman.
cat
I assume she had a
person.
dog. She's a white woman with an income. I assume.
But yeah, enjoy the stories and don't give her any money.
So when all of these people come into the home, they are greeted by Benson Mum, the butler, and every single one of them is almost killed by a gargoyle that falls. There was in the first people that attempt this are the Wang family,
Yes.
and he's like, on the count of 3, jump, 1, 2, 3, jump. The gargoyle falls down, and he goes, "Gee, Pop, how'd you know?" And he's like, looks down, and there's shoe prints.
Yeah.
And later on, there is a callback that did unfortunately make me laugh, which is,
It made me laugh too.
yeah, it's like,
'Cause it's just like, how dumb.
yeah, it's very stupid. They're like, someone also avoids it.
It's Perrier.
Perrier, but his chauffeur, Marcel, gets knocked on the head, and he's like, "How did you know?" He goes, "Well, there are Chinese footprints right here." And it's just the stupidest
so dumb.
thing. And there's a lot of that, of like, why bring it up
Yeah.
in this?
It's more like awkward funny, not like funny
It's
funny.
cringe
Yeah.
inducing and
Yeah.
like so shocking sometimes. Like there's a
Yeah.
diatribe that Sam goes on where I was like, oh, like taken aback. It was like one of those kind of laughs. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, Jiminy Christmas.
Yeah.
What's messed up is like, this was 50 years ago. That was not that long ago.
Wow.
Isn't that weird to think about? It's
Can
exactly.
we just take a moment to just appreciate that we beat racism in 50 years? Great job, guys. we did it.
I am silent because I am enjoying it so much. When you say something really funny, I don't laugh. I'm just like, oof. Chef's kiss. I have something written down, a joke. Do you remember when someone said, "Do you see that? Neither did I"?
Oh,
It-
gosh.
Benson
yes.
Mum, right?
It's Benson Mum.
Yeah.
Maybe. I thought it was one of the couples, and like I
Oh.
just thought that as a concept of like, did you see that? Neither did I. Like, then why are you asking? There's a similar line in Star Wars Episode 3, The Revenge of the Sith, where Obi-Wan says to Anakin, "Did you push the stop button when they're in the elevator?" He goes, "Did you push the stop button? No. Did you? No." Like, why would he ask?
Yeah.
It's very like, what?
I think it's, I don't remember what couple, but it's somebody when they're in their room like looking at their
Yes.
room for the first time.
It's not the Charlestons
Oh.
because they have a creepy room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When the Charlestons go into their room, it's covered in what appears to be like cobwebs and like everything's dusty. Because
And
this room in the story has not been touched since the late Mrs. Twain murdered herself in her
That-
sleep.
Very funny.
Yes.
To which Dickie says, "You mean suicide?" "No, I mean murder." Mrs. Twain hated herself.
And I have a bit that suicide is a self-hate crime. That's such a funny concept to me. Oh my god! And beautifully delivered by Alec Guinness.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
he is so good in this movie, and it's nice to see something besides Star Wars that he's in. I stay winning, another Star Wars person in a movie. That's something we've covered.
But
Yeah.
as we have mentioned suicide, if you are feeling alone and by yourself, there are resources for you out here in this world.
Call
And
Tyler Riley at.
reach out to me, like DM me if you are a listener and you are going through something. I am no expert, but certainly willing to lend an ear to those in need.
Yeah, there's certainly
It is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yeah.
So.
definitely a good thing to bring up and mention.
I have failed for the month. If that is
In
the
your
case.
mental health?
Yeah, my mental health is just failing.
Bum, 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 bum.
And I'm sad.
So they say that the room has not been touched since her death, and they open the door and a mouse runs across the bed.
Such a solid goof.
Tons of cobwebs everywhere. There's dust on everything. Once the butler leaves,
The butler.
Dickie goes over to a chair and is like, this dust is actually like, it's sugar or cornstarch or
Baking
something.
flour.
Baking flour, sure. And
The cobwebs are the candied floss.
yeah.
Cotton candy.
for Americans.
Right. So goes over to the bed, picks up the mouse, and Maggie Smith says, "Oh, is that you
Because
know,
it's obviously a toy.
right?" And so it's a toy. Then he's like, "No, it's a real mouse."
And he throws it away. But what's
Silly.
Silly.
What is? I
Me.
am.
What's beautiful is because they push past the mouse on the bed, and it turns into a toy mouse.
Yeah.
During that time, and then when he picks it up, and it's a toy mouse, and then it switches when he's in it. It's a nice little bit of movie magic. Very, very nice. Perrier and Marcel are shown to their room as well, and Benson Mum has lit a fire in what he thinks is the fireplace, but is actually just these are
That's
the
the
wangs.
wangs, yeah.
These are wangs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just he lit the bed on fire, which is very funny. I'm sorry, it's just funny to see a bed on fire.
Also, they no-sell it for the most part. They just are like, "No, the bed's on fire," and they like pull the curtains down and stifle the fire. And I'm like, well, at least the bed will be warm.
But if you like
No
Fire
sell
in a
it.
Bed, you would love one of my favorite comedies, Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown,
Okay.
which is also on the HBO Max.
Interesting. Now, you said no sell. Never heard that term before.
Oh.
I assume it just means playing straight.
It's a wrestling terminology.
It is a wrestling term.
But it means
So
like-
Star Trek, Melissa.
No. No.
Oh, Patrick Stewart would be a good Benson Mum.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Or, I'm sorry, Ewan McGregor. Get Obi-Wan Kenobi in there again.
Huh. Sure.
He's been funny. Have you seen Down with Love?
I've seen him down on Love.
No. Let's not go there.
Oh,
Let's not go
Start a
to the
whole thing.
very open
Yeah.
fiasco of his love life. But no, he's a very good comedic actor as well.
so a no-sell is when if you were to get punched in the face and you didn't react.
Okay, when you Buster Keaton it.
Yeah. Like you get body slammed and you pop right back up.
Yeah.
It's just like, yep, what you did nothing to me.
Yeah.
When the Charlestons also meet the butler, Maggie Smith just does say, "Don't let him park the car," because he's a butler and valet, and then he's like, "I'll show you to your rooms," and then after which I will park the car, and Maggie Smith gives the best look to her husband, who's a very famous actor who I cannot remember the name of.
Nivens, is that right?
Let's take a quick Google. Look it up, Tyler. Look it up.
David Niven.
David Niven. And they also let themselves in, and that's when he closes the door the wrong way.
Oh, yeah.
And then this is also when this is the Benson mum scene. And of course, if you're English, you refer to someone who is your better, who is a woman, as mum. It's like, oh, so what's your name? Benson mum. Oh, so it's Benson. No, Benson mum. And then what is
James Sir.
James, sir.
James Sir. Oh, so it's James. No, James Sir. James Sir Benson mum. Very,
Yeah. That's
very easy, light.
What's your father's name? Howard. Howard Benson.
That one I don't get.
Howard. Howard.
How odd, as in like how odd, or
Like
how
how odd.
How
is, like,
strange. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That one I didn't.
It's a very who's on first kind of
Yes.
bit.
Yeah.
Very fun. Yes. We also, in the process of this, by the way, the introductions take up
45 minutes.
it's half of the movie.
which
it
is fine.
It is. It's fine. There's not much to the plot. It really truly does not go on that long. But in the course of this, we get introduced to a maid who cannot cook. Yes, thank you. A cook who cannot hear or speak. And she goes and sees the blind butler, and he tries to talk to her, and she tries to hold up a note saying,
that she can't speak or can't hear, and can't read in English.
Which
And
is such a... What?
And the letter is signed the Acme Letter Writing Company,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
was even more fun.
Now, this bit has a problem later on because of the plot. It doesn't make sense.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But it's, confusion. If you've seen Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder and Hear No Evil, See No Evil, it's very similar dynamic.
right. So
But
she
less
can't,
sensitive than that.
yeah, she can't hear him. He can't see her, so he can't read her notes. So he's trying to give her instructions, and she just sits down and in the kitchen and hangs out.
It's chilling.
Yeah.
I'll say this as well. When Perrier and Marcel are shown to their room, which happens right before this, Perrier is like, I do not trust the butler. He does not make eye contact. And Marcel's like, he's blind. He's like, no, of course he's not. And then they get shown to the room. And he goes, of course, Perrier goes, and one more thing. And the butler's like, yes. And then he makes a bunch of stupid faces. And he goes, after he goes, that'll be all. The butler leaves, and he goes, those were my funniest faces.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved, I'm going to pull out all this stuff.
My funny. Yes. That was amusing.
Jack Black for a Perrier.
Oh, that would be very fun, wouldn't it? Mm-hmm. So they all sit down to dinner.
Yes.
And they're all like, this is weird. This whole situation is weird. And then there's some business with the cook not making the dinner and yada, yada, yada. But then Truman Capote shows up and is like, the reason...
Well,
Whale.
Before then, Detective Wang, they're all talking and seated at
I have blocked out every line of dialogue from Peter Sellers in this movie. I just, when you bring him up, I was
he's in this.
dang
Oh, God,
it.
that's right. This character. Ooh.
But this character does point out, as everyone's discussing, they get served wine before they meet
Yes,
the host.
that's right.
Oh, yes, this is one of my favorite bits.
And their Dickie Charleston is is giving this toast because their host hasn't arrived, and they still want to kick things off.
Because the butler says dinner is 8, he won't be arriving till 9. Oh, why not? That's really rude to not dine with your guests. He goes, oh, he likes to go out to eat. Very, in my mind, he went to McDonald's.
Oh no, we're talking about McDonald's again.
Yes,
Now
we
I
have
want.
McDonald's, I have McDonald's, I have
no.
McDonald's. So, keep going, Tyler.
So Mr. Wang, before they toast and drink, says to the room, wait, I have something to add. And then he says, like, there is a tasteless, odorless, ancient oriental herb. And then pours out his wine into somebody's
A
like
napkin.
Yeah.
Napkin.
Cloth napkin, and it eats right through it.
I was expecting it eats 2 holes, and I was expecting him to like do something with putting his eyes through the holes or something. It looked
Oh, I'm sure that's in a deleted scene. It's
Yeah.
like somebody in like a clan.
exactly. Sorry, now I'm thinking about Django Unchained, and like I can't see anything out of this dang thing. Very funny.
That movie is such a problem.
Okay. I haven't seen it in ages. Joseph Gordon-Levitt was originally going to be the Leo DiCaprio role.
What?
But he went, I want to do Lincoln instead, a movie that no one has thought about since it came out.
I saw
I
it.
wouldn't say nobody.
Okay, well, I never saw it and have not thought about it, except for...
Great film.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sally Field is
Interesting.
fantastic in that role.
Yeah, she really is. Oh my goodness.
Okay, I've only heard terrible things about that movie.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway.
Incidentally, I watched Trial of the Chicago 7 last week.
Sacha Baron Cohen, my dude.
He was great
He's a
in it.
phenomenal actor.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. Did you see it?
Yeah, wasn't a fan.
Not a fan? Okay.
But back to the dinner. So he pours it out. There's been poison, and everyone's like, "Oh, no one can drink the thing." And then Perrier is like, "No, I'll prove that it's just his thing that was poison, because only he would know about that specific kind of poison." And he drinks his wine, and then he goes, "Ah, ah!" And everyone's like, "Oh no!" He's like, "I'm not the poison. It was just a bad year." And that
was funny.
It was really good.
so funny.
That was great.
A phenomenal joke.
Yeah, that's a good joke.
Mm-hmm. A+. Way to go, Neil Simon. Turns out Neil Simon, pretty funny.
When he's not being horrifically racist, Neil Simon's very funny.
Yeah, it turns out. And then...
And then
There's
he's Dickie saying that he's like, "Oh no, I should not be seated next to my wife." And they're like, "Don't you like her?" And he's like, "No, but that's not the point, you know."
In high society, she should be sitting across from me.
Right. It's a mingling. It's to encourage discussion.
Yes.
makes
And I also hate that about couples who sit next to each other at
Oh,
restaurants.
I cannot stand it.
Ugh.
Oh, it is terrible.
I'm
do not-
sorry.
Well,
Fix yourself.
fix yourself. Oh,
I don't talk to him. I just sit next to him.
we sit in silence like we've been
That's a
married for
bit
75
better.
years.
Like, I just hate the people that are like, let's share a menu and and they're just like kissing and like just,
playing
like,
grab ass.
Just like stop.
Oh,
like,
you mean like
separate yourselves for like a meal, please.
We are.
you mean
in
for
a-
like at a two-top, like sitting in you
No,
know
or a
if they're just
four-top.
sitting
yeah,
together.
like if you're
If you're on a double date, you sit across from
Yes.
the person to encourage conversation.
yeah, but even if you're in a booth with someone, you should be sitting across from your partner, not next to each other in a booth.
We do that occasionally, but like
This is great.
And these are just my rules. These
Yeah,
are not
they're mine as well. There's this great line in Seinfeld where they're at the diner and George sits next to Jerry and he goes, "What, are we on a date? Sit across from me. What's wrong with you?" Very funny. Very funny.
but like when Rich and I are out with Kristen and Lorelai, we'll sit next to each other and talk to Kristen and Lorelai because it's
Okay.
I yeah. It also I think depends on like the social situation because Kristen and Laura like very, very well, so you're gonna talk to them no matter what.
right. Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
That is true. It depends on who you're out with
Yeah.
sometimes, because sometimes I need to be next to who I'm with to like give them the signal like it is time to go.
Speaking of Sam sitting next to the nurse, and at one point they all hold hands, and
Oh.
she's fingering his palm,
Uh-huh.
and it's very funny. And he's like, "Stop that!" And it's like, "There's a beat." I said, "Stop that! Stop!" The dirty old broad's fingering my palm. It's so funny. And he also turns and is talking to Miss Marbles at one point, and Maggie Smith goes, "You're spitting on the nurse." He goes, I'm sorry." Like the level of just extreme American disgust is beautiful. I think it's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uncivilized.
Miss Withers is that
Yeah,
her
Miss
name?
Withers.
She is perfect in every way.
And was originally supposed to be a much larger part.
Oh.
It was supposed to be a character played by Katharine Hepburn called
Oh.
Dame Abigail Christmas, who was supposed to be a parody of Agatha Christie.
Uh-huh.
But she turned it down because somebody else who was originally attached dropped out. And she was like, if they're not doing it, I'm not doing it.
Okay.
Weird.
So then it went to Estelle Winwood. Whoever plays Miss Withers
Winwood.
had stepped into the Abigail Christmas role, but then after a couple of rewrites, it became the role of Miss
Oh, I
Withers.
see. Okay.
That makes sense, because I was like, it's weird that... Because when she was first introduced, I'm like, well, this is clearly a parody of Agatha Christie, and then it just doesn't pay off in that same way.
Yeah.
But then, the reason they were holding hands is because Truman Capote shows up, and he says, one of you will die at midnight. And Wang suggests, well, if we're all in the same room, the murder cannot happen without witnesses. And I believe it's Maggie Smith that suggests they all hold hands, which is very weird and cute.
Yes.
No, Jessica
Jessica does. And it's very funny because then it's like 11 o'clock at that time. And so I'm like, you're going to just sit there holding hands for an hour? And then that is what they proceed to attempt to do.
Yeah.
I would like to add
Yes.
a point that I was trying to bring up earlier is that Detective Wang sees eyes popping out of this hanging moose head that is hung on the wall, which turns out to be Twain spying on them before he enters the room.
And
Yeah.
there's been
introduces.
other like paintings with his
Yeah.
eyes, and
There's a painting of a dog with
his-
and like
His-
Twain sticks his actual tongue out of the
Yeah.
painting.
My question is, was that Truman Capote doing that, or did they just have a
No,
stand?
they
Ugh.
absolutely had a stand-in for that. I am.
I
Could you
wish it was
imagine?
Truman Capote doing it. If
Well, I
only.
just need to quick stick my tongue out of here. Something I do on the weekends for free. It's turning into Droopy Dog,
is.
which
It
is
is.
also a parody of Truman Capote.
Is that right?
Yes.
Oh,
And
I thought you were
Smee
just
is-
trying to be Ben Carson, and I was like, this is a really odd choice for the pod.
Ooh.
So he says one of you is going to be.
brain surgery.
Well, okay, Captain. So everyone's like, okay, we're gonna stay all in the same room, and then there's some sort of cry out, and
They
Oh.
hear these groans. Anytime the doorbell rings, it's a woman screaming, but they're hearing these groans. And Dora, played by Maggie Smith, is like, oh, it's that African head on the wall.
Oh, yeah.
right.
Yep. Just when he thought black people might escape unscathed
No.
from racism in this film.
He calls it an African death mask.
And it's like, oh, obviously from some tribal ritual.
Yes.
Like, everyone's an expert on everything in this house, though no one here lives there. And it's their first time being there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this house kind of reminds. I used to work at the Jekyll and Hyde Club out
Yeah, that's right.
in the village there,
Mhm.
and it reminds me of that. So he's come in, Truman Capote.
Yes.
He's declared that one of you will die, and then he zips out
Because
because
Lionel Twain has brought them all together because he believes himself to be the greatest detective. And what better way to prove that to the world than to lock the world's 5 greatest detectives in the same room and have them solve an unsolvable crime.
very cards on the table.
Yes.
And, like, accurate.
Yeah.
Like,
He's
this
not-
is, like, a really good plan.
Yeah. I mean, it's as far as experiments go, it's not a bad one.
Yeah.
So he turns out the lights go out again, and he's on one head of the table, and he goes to the other head of the table, and it's so funny.
This is very funny.
And it's like, how did you do it? And he goes, well, I'm still there. It's done with mirrors. And so I was going to say Columbo. Sam pulls out his gun and goes, okay, I'll prove it. And he goes, no, wait, sometimes it doesn't work. It's
A+.
very funny.
Yeah.
And then the doors open behind him, and then he, mechanically goes back, and then the door's shut. And Maggie Smith goes, man, I hope he knows how to stop that thing.
And like, God forbid, like for your sakes, hope that I never have enough money to make a house like this.
I will give you so much money to do this. And
Yeah, as they were all filing in, I had the thought, that would be really fun to stay in a big, creepy house like this. Love it. Sounds like a good weekend.
There has to be somewhere in the world that like does this kind of
Oh,
thing.
absolutely.
100%.
But like well.
Yeah. Like very, very well.
Yeah.
It's
Not
called-
like, staying in the Poconos where it's like some
Poconos?
Because you poked your nose, silly.
Ain't I a stinker?
But yeah, like I don't want like sea level murder mystery getaways. You know
I
what I
thought
mean?
you meant like you need above sea level. I need to be in Colorado, thank you.
Yeah.
None of that, going to Tahiti to stay in those underground villas.
Yeah.
For me, for a murder mystery, thank you.
Oh
No,
my
no,
gosh.
no.
So they
Only above ground murders for this guy.
So they hear these muffled screams or whatever, but it's not the scream of the doorbell because very Frau Buchler. There's a scream every time they ring the doorbell, and Wang and Perrier and Marbles all go to investigate what happened. Oh no, I'm sorry. The cook runs in and goes, Mimes, there's been a murder. There's some
Yeah.
funny business there. She tries to use Maggie Smith's shawl as a
As a handkerchief.
and then she switched it out. Very fun class stuff.
Yeah, very tap it, darling moment.
Yeah. And so Perrier, Marbles, and what's the coming to go? Wang.
Yeah.
All come in, and the butler's been murdered. He's been poisoned. And again, we get a Nespa Hershey's bit because it's with hot cocoa.
Right.
And then, but a butcher knife, which is the way Truman Capote has been told everybody that the murder will occur, has been stolen. But when they get back they go back to the dining room, the door is locked. Perrier goes back to grab the key, but the butler is missing, but his clothes are there.
Yep.
He
Yeah.
goes back, he unlocks the door, they go into the dining room, nobody's there. They freak out. They close then there's a hint from Twain saying count to how many people there are.
Count 1 to 10,
Mm-hmm.
and then open the door again. Or something.
Yeah, some rhyme.
Yeah.
It's very, riddle me with this, Batman.
Yep.
And so they do it, and sure enough,
Ta-da.
as they turn the knob, everyone is back in the dining room,
Mm-hmm.
all wondering, like, where have you been? Like, we've been wondering, like, what's going on?
Pretty scary, you disappearing like that. And then Sam and
Like, Dickie.
Dickie go to investigate the thing because they explain what happened. And then Dickie goes to the restroom. There's a running gag with Sam, by the way. He's like, I gotta go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Very funny. I don't know. He's so uncivilized. It's just very amusing.
But it's Dickie.
Yeah, but Dickie has to go to the
Yeah.
bathroom this time because he touches... It's not because he has to use the restroom. It's because he touches the butler and he's like, I need to go wash my hands.
So,
it's icky.
What has happened now is that instead of the clothes being there without the body's there without the clothes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
naked Alec Guinness. Just...
You love to see it.
You love to see it, folks. So he goes to the bathroom, and then Sam goes through the door and delivers the funniest line in the whole movie, in my estimation. He's sitting there, the dining room is empty again, and he goes, oh, gosh, I don't know. This can only mean one thing, and I don't know what it is. Had me dying, perfectly delivered by Peter. And then he goes back, and then he opens the restroom door. Dickie isn't there. He closes it. He opens again. Dickie is there. He goes, I said I'd be a minute. And then...
Because when he first opens it, it's the dog in
Oh, yeah.
Dickie and Dora's room. You're like, what the?
Yeah,
what is going on?
What is happening? And then they go back into the dining room and go, you guys weren't lying, basically.
Yeah.
And then at some point, Perrier leaves again to prove some thing.
Yeah. I don't remember exactly what he goes to prove, though. But, like, it's like they're down to the wire. He has, like, 15 seconds to get back in this room before midnight hits.
Mm-hmm.
And so Sam goes over and shoots, like, the door open.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes, Perry comes in wearing the butler's clothes, and he just goes, "Don't ask."
Very funny.
Yes. So they have to all gather back in the room before midnight as they're counting down. They're all holding hands.
And right before the countdown hits, Dora realizes that the cook is gone from the room.
Yeah.
But, like, they can't leave.
Right. So they just gotta wait it out, hold their hands. Miss Withers gotta stroke Sam's palm a little bit more.
Stop it.
Her face is so good. Twinkle in her eye. And sure enough, it chimes midnight. All 12 chimes go off, and no one has died.
Nope. And then there's a knock at the door, and then they open the door, and Twain has been stabbed in the back and has been moited.
Yep, with the butcher knife.
With a butcher knife. So then they all convene in the parlor, and they're all like, well, everyone has a motive. Wang was his adopted son, who he didn't realize was Asian until he was 17. And then it was like, oh, you're Asian? Get out of the house? Which is, oh boy. And this is the scene where Sam Diamond delivers a monologue where he is incredibly racist and uses terminology that was shocking.
Sorry, I just remember we
forgot.
that I wanted to talk about, but it's fine.
No.
Keep going.
You've already you bring it up. What's the bit?
Back when Sam and Dickie are in the kitchen with the naked butler's body, Dickie turns to Sam and then asks him if he's ever made it with a waitress.
Oh,
right. Not even, he goes, you ever make it with a waitress? I'm talking a big fat waitress. Unless you made it with a waitress, you haven't experienced. And that had
quote,
me,
big fat blondie waitress. It's incredibly, like, it's terrible.
So rude.
But, like, it catches me off guard every time I see it. It's that uncomfortable, like, this is so inappropriate laugh.
Yeah, I understand.
I have that written down. It had me reeling, because it also is a non sequitur.
Yeah, like,
it's not out of...
And it's like Sam's test of character, apparently. Because, like, immediately following that, you see, like, Sam walk out of the room first and go, I don't know about that guy. It's just like, what?
Yeah, both of them are like, hey, you're not so bad. And then immediately they're on, like, I don't know about that guy.
Damn the man myself. Yeah. Very fun. A big fat blondie. That is, like, musical in construction, like the language.
And I think it's only funny because of the voice.
You ever make it with a big fat blondie waitress? Yeah, it's hysterical.
Like, if he just said, you ever, like, oh, you haven't made it until you made it with a big fat blondie waitress, like, that's not funny.
Right.
No, but since it's the
But it's the acts, like, it's like the...
Everything about the delivery.
It's like, you know that type of dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's, he also spews off a whole bunch of really homophobic stuff.
Yes, because we're back in the parlor.
Oh, sorry, yes. We are now back to where I made us leave.
No, but thank you, because again, it was written down, and that and Peter Falk made me laugh the most in this whole thing. But he apparently Twain has photos of him in drag at a gay club, and he's like, I
was in disguise.
He goes, I was undercover, and it was very funny, like, because the terminology he uses is so antiquated. He's like, I'm no pansy, I'm no sissy, and I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, what?
And he says, I never kissed nobody. And I never did anything to a man that I wouldn't do to a woman.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, that was good. I was
Wait
like-
a minute. Oh, really?
Okay.
Yeah. And because earlier also, there's kind of a foreshadowing because his assistant wants to like,
Is so in love with him.
and he's like, I don't kiss. Just knock it off. And
Yeah.
it's also very funny because when they find out about, the murder going to happen at midnight, she goes, Sam, hold me. And he goes, hold yourself. So good. Everyone is so mean to their subordinates.
But I so wanted a spinoff of specifically Sam and Tess.
Yeah.
Like I wanted more
yeah.
of them.
Yeah.
But Dickie and
Dora.
Dora are very sweet to each other for the most part.
Dickie
But-
has been inferred that he's being philandering.
Yeah,
And
he's got a
he's using
wandering-
all her money.
I'm sorry, I should say they're very polite to each other.
Yes.
That's what it is.
He does pat her butt at one point and compliment her butt, which I thought was
See, that's nice.
that is nice. And I thought it was very funny and very cute because again, it's like they're married, it's fine. But I was like, what a weird bit to be like, you
Yeah.
got the best tuchus in the high society, right?
Thanks.
But yeah, as you alluded, pretty much Charles, the last name is Charleston, but Dickie has squandered away their money.
Yeah,
This
and
is
They
very
have,
funny.
and she's like, "We're broke." And he's like, "No, I have $1.17 and some stamps."
Yeah.
it was very, very funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Twain knows about this and was like blackmail or something.
Because he borrowed at like 17% interest or something,
No.
and is behind on payment.
And then Perrier. Twain goes every year to France to hunt poodles, and he killed Perrier's poodle. And he's like, I would have my revenge. And he's like, but I did not do it. His accent is bonkers and makes Peter Sellers' accent is Clouseau seem like reasonable. It's very good. We should do the Steve Martin Pink Panther, I think.
We'd have to do both.
I think
Just
so
know
too.
that.
Yeah.
Kevin Kline in that movie. Chef's kiss.
Oh.
So what happened? We have 4 out of 5?
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
so
because the marbles.
Miss Marbles was engaged to be married to Lionel Twain
Right.
once upon a time.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it's revealed that what is the name of the assistant to Sam?
Tess.
Tess. Thank you. Twain is Tess's uncle, and she has this insane line where she goes,
Yeah.
He used to take me to the circus and buy me candy up until, oh gosh, I was 26. and Sam goes, what kind of circus was it? It was very good. And also after Tess says, by the way, I think Sam's a homosexual, he goes, there's a beat, he looks at her and goes, bitch, and then walks away. It's very, the comedic timing of
Yeah.
Peter Falk is so fucking good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can say it without being believed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Do you know he has a series of islands named after him? The Falcon Islands. Good night, everybody.
So they all have a motive, but they're like, all right, we can't solve this now.
Yeah, so good night, go to bed.
Yeah, basically.
And everyone has an attempt on their life. With some gag, the Wangs have a deadly snake.
Oh, in their bed.
Yeah, in their
So
bed.
they have a little chat. They're debriefing with the other person in their party. And yeah, there is a deadly snake in
the Scorpion with the Charlestons.
Yes.
Gas with Miss Marbles. Oh yeah, you want to take it away?
Yes, I do. So all the pairs share a bed, whether they're like in relationships or not. It just
Yeah.
is what it is.
Right.
So
Which is very
Miss
funny with
Marbles
Perrier.
and Miss Withers, they're in bed, and Miss Marbles is like, "I figured it out. The murderer is. Oh my gosh, there's gas." And Miss Withers goes, "Oopsie."
I'm old, I can't help it.
Pretty old.
And with go ahead.
And so Miss Marbles is like, "No, not that gas, the kind that kills." And she's like, "It's not that bad.
It's very juvenile, very funny.
But see, I've said before how I don't really like
Potty humor?
Potty humor. That is funny though.
Yeah.
That is an exception because
Yes.
it's a good joke.
No, I love a good fart.
It's funny to think of the Pope farting, which is where the smoke comes from.
Oh, yeah, sure.
It's a bunch
okay.
of cardinals that are well. You have to figure it out.
It's time.
Yep. So Perrier and Marcel are sharing a bed, and Perrier's like, "Why are you here?" And he's like, "There's no other bed." And he goes, "Go sleep in the car. You're a chauffeur." Very cruel.
No.
And he goes, "Why?" And it's because he has a toupee. He's taken off his toupee, and he goes, "Everybody knows you have a toupee." He's like, "I know everybody knows." It's like, "Well, then why do you wear it?" He goes, "Well, I didn't think you knew."
Yeah,
Very
it's
funny.
real cute.
It's very funny. And then the ceiling starts getting lowered to squish him.
Yes, and James
And-
Cromwell is 6'7".
And in a absolutely his pajamas. Can we talk about the pajamas? They are mesh. It's a mesh, essentially romper. They are
you
inferring
think-
some things.
You
here.
think we didn't repeat the sleepwear of James Cromwell in this movie?
But the ceiling lowers, and with the Charlestons, there's a scorpion. That's
Yeah.
Oh,
crawling
my
on the
dear,
bed.
there's a scorpion in the bed. Oh, goodness, what should we do?
Terribly British.
We should probably lay still until possibly the end of our lives.
Which could be at any moment if the scorpion stings him.
Yeah.
I thought of that.
Are we we're missing one. What happens with Sam? Oh, there's a bomb with Sam.
Yeah.
And here's another very funny joke. He's like, "What's that ticking I hear?" And then the note slides under the door and goes, "That ticking you hear, Sam Diamond, is a bomb about to go off in 15 seconds. Signed, the murderer."
That's very good.
Very solid. If this thing wasn't so darn racist.
But in this same scene, this scene opens with Tess being like, "Did I do a good job with the whole, gay club bit?"
Uh-huh.
And he's like, "Oh yeah, like let them think that, I'm, gay, while I solve the real crime while they're worried about me." And she's like, "Yeah, great plan, but also like, why do you have Naked Muscle Man magazines?"
And he goes, "Suspects. I'm always looking for suspects."
Yep.
It's very funny.
And then, they get the note, as Tristan discussed, and Tess is like, "Oh, what are we going to do?" And he's like, "All right, I don't know if this is going to work, but turn around." And she does. She's like, "All right, Sam." And then he just starts crying.
It's very funny.
Yeah.
Very. It's what's also interesting about this, and we've talked about this like with the Family Guy thing as well, of like, since it is satirical, you could make the argument that the homophobia and the racism is pointing out how stupid those things are, but it's done in such a way that is still deeply offensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like
It's like Book of Mormon and Tropic Thunder. You tried, didn't work.
yeah, precisely. And then I think we should take a break because then it's the
Oh, yeah.
confrontation. Thank you very much for listening. It's been a pleasure reviewing this terribly racist, terribly offensive, very funny still piece of media. You can go to the Scavengers Network at scavengersnetwork.com and check out all the fun stuff they have there. There's an independent podcast showcase as of this recording next Saturday, the 22nd. And we are going to be up at 3 p.m. So tune into that. More details at scavengersnetwork.com. You can also go to Teespring/The Mill with hyphens between the and mill. And buy some of our merch if you want there. We have mugs, we got t-shirts. Yeah, and for me personally, if you're in the New York area, I run a stand-up comedy show every month at the Bee Cafe in Woodside. It's been going pretty darn well. We have Jake Flores and Maddie Smith, not Maggie Smith, unfortunately. Maddie Smith coming by, and they're pretty well known. And Gary Goldman later this week. For the 21st, Jake and Maddie, and for the 28th, Gary Goldman, who you might recognize from having a great special on HBO called The Great Depression, where he talks about his depression and how it was absolutely debilitating. It's very funny, too. So check.
It's weekly, not monthly, right?
Did I say monthly?
You did.
So yeah, every week, every ding dang week. I'm
Friday nights.
Friday nights at 8:00. Doors are at 7:30. Show starts at 8, and I say that because we started at 8:30 last night, and I got home at midnight and sleepy. I'm sleepy.
Mm-hmm.
Fair.
Tyler, you have a personal plug too.
Yes.
This is not normally the order we go in.
That's
Yeah.
okay. We can go out of order, mix it up.
Mm-hmm.
At Culture Lab LIC at the Plaxo Gallery, 5-25 46th Avenue in Long Island City, Queens, you can catch Company of Fools' production of Rajiv Joseph's gruesome playground injuries. Friday, May 7th. Nope. Just kidding. Saturday, May 15th through 17th, as well as the 22nd through 24th at 8 p.m. in person, as well as online. Visit companyoffools.com today to get more information about tickets and how to stream.
And if you want to meet all three of us at the same time, Melissa and I are going on the 24th, probably.
Yes, and that, to clarify, that is a Saturday, Sunday, Monday evening schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
Mixing it up a little bit with a typical, I should say, theater schedule. So Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We will be there Monday, the 24th for closing. That's the plan.
Now, if you want to have a very, very special weekend, you can come to my show on Friday, watch the showcase live on Saturday, and then go see the show on Sunday.
You could do that.
And then if you want to meet us on Monday,
Right. Yeah.
please stalk us. I need the attention.
Mm-hmm.
I love how y'all just assume I'm going to be there on the 24th.
Yeah, I mean...
Just kidding. I will absolutely be there for all performances of gruesome playground injuries.
Yeah, and I'm running a race that weekend, but you can't come because it's on an island and there's a ferry and it's...
And also, you
Oh,
wouldn't
I
be
just
able to
thought 'cause
catch
I'm
her.
black.
You wouldn't be able to catch Melissa. No, Tyler, I'm sorry. What did you say?
I said I just thought it because I was black. I can't be at the race.
Who am I, Jesse Owens? Come on.
No, that's on Saturday morning before the showcase. I'm running a 5K in person for the first time since the pandemic. But yeah, it's just I'm
Now,
just doing that.
5Ks. How many miles is that?
3.1.
Oh, okay. That's nice.
Yeah.
That's a nice... I was going to say easy. Not easy. It's still like 3 miles, but it's not... That's something I could see myself working up to.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Yeah, I ran a 5K distance this morning as well.
There you go. Nice,
Manageable
nice.
chunk of miles.
Where can people find us online, Melissa?
At ADC Pod. I forgot for a second. At ADC Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Email us with compliments. amateurdetectiveclub@gmail.com.
And we also have a Patreon. And I put up last week, we got a little silly. And we said some things that had to be cut out because they were either not relevant or a little inappropriate, but still funny. So you can listen to, there's a good, solid 20 minutes of extra content up on our Patreon now.
There you go.
So please subscribe to that. Tyler, do you want to tell the folks that, or do you want me to keep going?
You can keep going.
Okay, so for $1 a month, you can get bonus content as per I mentioned. And I think it's $10 you can plug a business or a shout out. And as
Yes, you can.
required by me, by the great state of Indiana,
Oh.
I'm legally required to say butt soup as per the request of Rich Gilberter. I can never. Can I tell you something? I cannot pronounce Italian names. There's something in my mind that I look at that and I'm like, how the hell do you say that? I can say Xi Jinping. I can do like.
When you've gone to the Olive Garden as much as I
Yes, the pinnacle of Italian culture, the Olive Garden.
The one thing they've contributed ever, not aqueducts and roads.
the Olive Garden.
The
When
Olive-
I'm there, I'm family.
That's
so
right.
I know how to pronounce my family's name. So
When we in the garden, we're all fam, as I believe.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and it's funny because Rich's last
that really should be the slogan because that is the clientele.
Oh my gosh.
Oh boy. And Rich's last name is Americanized too.
Yeah, it's Gilberto.
Gilberto, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's the O because I want to say Gilberta because I say winda and pilla, meaning pillow and window.
Do you say that?
Yeah, I'm from South Dakota. I'll say
Okay.
pumpkin as well.
Huh.
Yup.
All right.
Drives my mom insane.
So we're back in Twain's office,
Yes.
and there is a figure sitting at the desk.
sitting at the desk.
Okay.
And
Hey,
then,
racism!
yeah.
And Wang walks through the door.
Now Wang walks in with an itty bitty waist. I'm so sorry. I made myself laugh. But he walks in, he goes, I know who you are, and his son has the snake wrapped around his neck, and he's clearly shot the snake while he was attacking his son.
Yeah.
He hates his adopted Japanese son, which he says a lot, that phrase specifically.
Yeah. And also the sexism. Did we talk about the sexism?
We alluded to the sexism.
But there's a point where when Twain's body is discovered after being stabbed, Willie is tasked with being the one to cover up the body. And he's like, Dad, why do I have to do all the dirty work? And he's like, oh, because your mom's not here.
Oh yeah.
It's just like, oh, God.
Oh, we forgot to mention that the cook isn't
Oh, yeah.
isn't the cook?
Yeah, it's a cook that isn't real and
Right.
is made out of fake.
Plastic.
Yeah.
Right.
As is the body of the butler.
Which he is about
Much-
to reveal in his "You're actually the murderer," and the body of the butler was also fake.
Mm-hmm.
That is what Wang imparts to Benson Mum,
Benson Mum.
who is the murderer, quote unquote.
Now, here's a moment where there's a solid joke and they bungle the delivery. Where he goes, as you see, I can see. And then Wang goes, I see. But the pace of it just kills it. I'm like...
I just think that's bad editing. Is that
yeah,
bad editing? or
Yeah,
is it-
yeah. I think, it's the delivery's not bad. It's just like there's a beat there. I'm like, did you need the extra 5 seconds? Like, what's going on?
No.
So because it's Benson Mum, he's in a big hat. And he was crossing everyone's names off of a list of everyone who's died. So Wang comes in with an itty bitty waist and says that. And then who is the next person? Doesn't matter.
No. In some order, they all come in and accuse him of being a different person.
Yes. And so
But I believe it's Perrier next.
yeah, and says you're not really Benson
Benson
Mum. Oh, is a funny line with Wang of like, how did you figure out it was me? Well, I used a theory that is rarely used these days, that the butler did it. He goes,
I didn't
yes.
think of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Perrier comes in and says, no, you're actually
Like Richard, somebody who is the lawyer of Lionel Twain, and Lionel Twain.
Richard
had-
Goldbergstein, something Jewish. Because,
Yeah.
of course.
Why not? Gotta We didn't hit that
You know
yet.
what would be funny?
You know, can I tell you when we were talking about racism and you're like, it hits all the beats? I was like, oh, there's no anti-Semitism. And then there was
Yep.
this. Then there was this.
Mm-hmm.
So he really like had a much like the crossing out all the
Yeah.
lists. Like, oh my gosh, leave people alone. So that's his theory. And then
Jessica comes in and is like, actually, no, that's the accountant. No, I think I may have messed up the order. I think reverse that. I think it's Marbles that comes in second and says the thing about the lawyer, and then Perrier comes in and is like, no, it was actually the accountant. No, it was Dick and Dora.
you say the accountant.
That say the accountant
Oh,
because
sure, that makes sense.
Dickie noticed a bill for catering in the hand of the deceased, quote unquote, butler.
Right.
And then I'm always missing because I remember
Then
Sam.
Perrier comes
yeah.
in?
Then Perrier comes in and says some nonsense. Oh, because he says you're the daughter
Yes.
of,
Yeah.
and then Alec Guinness is more feminine and kind of a funny bit, but also like a little offensive
Yeah.
still, and like
Yeah.
Like it really walks the line, and
Oh,
I can't speak for that community. Like
exactly.
Yeah.
There's an insane line in this, which is like, I have a. He says something that
the
is.
attractiveness.
Yeah, it's like as a man
Oh,
you are
yeah.
passable, but as a woman you're
You're a
absolutely
dog.
a dog. And I was just like, oh, it's so
That's
terrible.
never- yeah.
It's so rude. But calling someone a dog when they're not attractive is so antiquated. It is amusing to me because of like who talks that way. But it's
I
still
see.
not a kind thing to
Right.
anybody. Then there's a fourth person besides Sam who I'm forgetting. We did Marbles. We
We
did
did Wang, Marbles, Perrier,
Perrier.
Dick, and Dora.
Okay, then it's Sam.
It's sad.
Yeah.
And then Sam comes in and goes, I'm an actor.
Oh God,
Twain,
this is wild.
Twain hired me. I'm not really Sam. I'm an actor, and this is a waitress.
Uh-huh.
And yep, yeah, she is. Buxom blast, shall we say?
Sure.
And this whole thing has been fake. He just wanted to prove a point.
But
So-
I figured that out, so I should get the money.
Yeah.
Oh right, because there's $1 million
Yeah,
reward.
there's $1 million. That's not
BTW.
important.
And this really is Twain.
Yeah. Benson pops off,
Scooby-Doo style.
Yeah. So yeah.
and then Twain goes on this diatribe, speaking on behalf of mystery fans everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, going through all of the tropes of like introducing characters in the last 5 pages that weren't there before, and
Sam being an actor.
Right.
Yeah.
withholding, important plot information so that you can't figure it out.
Yeah.
And there's like a couple of other ones that get brought up.
Oh, by the way, there's 2 dining rooms that look exactly the same.
Yeah.
We found out at some point.
Oh,
Yeah, which I knew right away. I was like, yeah, there's 2
yeah.
rooms. What are you talking
Yeah.
about? And they're like, oh, right. Because he's a mechanical genius because he's been like making it rain and that sort of thing outside. Just dollar bills, dollar bills, dollar bills. No, and then at one point, Perrier has a great line of like, he has put us through such mechanical and culinary torture this evening.
Yeah.
Very funny.
Yeah, that was a good
Yeah.
one.
So everyone's like, oh, all right, great. Let's go home.
Yeah, and there's no excitement. It's very anticlimactic. They all go home, saying their weekend was ruined. Oh, and when the Charlestons come in, they're like, "Well, how did you escape?" The scorpion is like, "Oh no, it just stung."
It just
stung
stung
Dora.
Dora.
And so it's like, really, we must be going. You have 15 minutes. It's fine. I want to explain this. So funny.
Oh yeah, it's really great.
But they all leave, and then it cuts back to Benson mom. No, not Benson.
Well, first, it we do see Sam and Tess in the car,
all right.
or the actor, these actors playing them. But we find out that no, it really is Sam
Yeah. He was
all
just-
along. He was pretending to be an actor, pretending to be himself.
He's a dude disguised as another dude.
Yeah. So the end of this movie,
Oh,
yeah.
right.
the very last scene is you see what's his name?
Benson.
Twain.
Oh, Yes.
Because, Twain, Benson Mum is pulled off his face, and then we see Twain.
So Twain is standing in the staircase of his home, and you see him, Scooby-Doo style, pull off another skin mask, and it is the cook
Bum, bum, bum.
who laughs.
But it's not her laugh. It is Truman Capote's laugh coming out of her mouth. It's very odd.
And that's the end of the
Very
movie.
Christopher Nolan Inception.
Yeah, and that's the end of the movie.
So what do we think?
Since it's 10 out of 10 because it's a movie.
Oh, I thought you said it was 10 out of 10 for a second. I was
No,
like,
no.
oh, okay,
No,
wow.
I would can I be honest with you? I would give this an 8 out of 10. The 2 points are taken away for the egregious racism. If they had just cut that character out or cast a different person or changed everything about that character specifically. But it got a lot of belly laughs out of me. It was pretty fun. I knew that the mystery was not going to be integral to anything, really, because it's just an excuse to get all these kind of, like, honestly, you can see the line from this to Clue to Knives Out of, like, let's get a bunch of famous people in a house and try and have fun, which I enjoy. Again,
And should be done more.
I think so, too, because who cares? You know, all a movie is people talking. You ever think about that? It's just two hot people or two or more hot people talking. That's what a movie is. And I think we should just calm down with needing plots in movies. This is my hot take. This movie is pretty good except for the things we've been complaining about throughout the entire review.
Yeah.
I would absolutely, sit down and watch it again. It's also only an hour and a half, which is perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfect for a comedy. Yeah.
And if you're flying Newark to Charlotte, perfect flight movie.
Mm-hmm.
That is the entire length of your flight.
Well, good to know.
There you go.
What do y'all think?
I give it a 7 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
I take more points off for racism than you do.
Mm-hmm.
I also just felt like I wish that the movie, that the plot had been figured out by Willie. I feel like that
would have been perfect.
It would have been perfect,
Yeah.
but I understand no executive at the time was going to have that happen.
Yeah, no, that would have been
So-
great.
So
the
in
remake.
our eventual remake,
Stephen Yeun will figure everything out. Or there's another. Who's the guy from Kimmy Schmidt? Do you know who I'm talking about?
I know you're talking about. I am
Yeah.
unfamiliar with the actor, though. Brilliant on stage as well,
Okay.
because he was also in a play at the Public called Office Hour about school shootings
Oh.
Interesting.
as the shooter, and was fantastic.
Oh.
May I interject one
Sure.
more thing about the review?
Mhm.
I would say I would give it a 6 or 7 out of 10, similar to you. But my boy, Peter Falk, brings it up because I love him so much. He's peepums. He is a very cute man, and I'm a big fan of him and what he does and what he brings to the table. But
Gotcha.
continue.
Back to my 7 out of 10 review. No, that is a good point because Peter does crush it in this movie. But yeah,
So Tyler, I was also
I will pee on your floor.
bad boy. I'll stick your nose in it. Right?
Ooh, sir. But this is a movie that I suggested that we watch this. So
it's
obviously
your
I didn't
fault.
have too much of a problem with the racism because I've watched this movie so many times. I know that it's a perfect, amount of time for a flight to Charlotte.
Yeah.
So I have watched this quite a number of times throughout, my life. And shout out to listener Dave Carey, who is the one who introduced the film to me in college. And he regularly listens to us, so he'll be really excited about this episode.
Oh, wonderful.
And sorry.
That's okay.
And again, all the women brought it
Yes.
through this really sexist and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, all the isms script. And rest in peace, Eileen Brennan. And I'm sure the actress who played Miss Withers.
Yeah.
And Alec Guinness, rip.
Yeah. We had ripped him before,
We
so I
had
didn't want to
ripped
rip him a new one.
Ooh.
Game, recognized game.
Are you looking kind of unfamiliar right now?
I also give it 7 out of 10 for all of the same reasons.
Perfect.
Yeah, brilliant portrayals. Except Peter Sellers. I mean, my goodness, what are you doing? But yeah, Maggie Smith is perfection in every way, as is Winwood, who played Miss Withers. Like, excellent. Yeah, all the women. Eileen Brennan. All the women are just absolutely the best. Yeah, Peter Falk as Sam Diamond doing like a Humphrey Bogart impression is also somehow still Columbo, and it's so funny.
Yeah, he's in a big coat.
I
He's
know.
still touching his face. Like
Yeah.
he's doing an impression in the same way. Like if I were to do this with my voice, you know what I mean?
No, yeah, exactly. But like, I just love that it's just Columbo
It's
also.
just Columbo also.
Yeah, no, it's if it weren't for most of the script, it would be a great movie.
You just need to do some rewrites. You know.
Yes, it could. It is certainly a salvageable movie. We can cut that all out and
we can
have a
improve
good one.
Neil Simon.
Yeah, we can. I'll say it.
1000%.
Isn't he also no longer with us?
Sure. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he died in 2018, 2019.
Okay.
Like very recently, I believe.
Rest in peace. I mean, he, also is a cultural, icon.
He did die in 2018. I forgot he died.
Yeah, he was a
That was a weird year for me.
There was a understandably so.
Yeah.
He and what was the guy who directed The Birdcage? And they died like really
yeah.
close together, and it was kind of weird.
Yeah. Well, the three.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So next week is the Scavengers Independent Showcase, so look for that, and then we're going to be taking a week off due to travel and other things. So see you next time.
Showcase next week, then week off, and then I think we'll go back to Poirot for season 11.
Probably.
Yeah.
That seems statistically likely.
Great.
All right. And with that, I now call this meeting of the Amachoy Detective Club to a close.
It's the doorbell.
Gavel sound.
More like gabble sound. We can't shut up.
Oh.
Yeah.